Good morning. I want to do a mic check. If you can hear my voice and if you know where the chat box at, can you please give me a Y so I can know that you can hear my voice? Okay, thank you. We're going to go ahead and get started. It is now 9 a.m. Welcome to the fiscal year 2020 CACFP Renewal Readiness Training for the Child and Adult Care Food Program. My name is Victoria Thomas, and I am a Technical Assistance Training Coordinator. Thank you all for joining today. We're going to talk about what's the 411. I also want to make sure you know that this is an informative process. This does not take the place of your required annual training documentation, okay? This is to help you ease through the process. Just a moment, we have a question. Sorry, I'm having technical difficulties. Let's see. Just one moment, I'm sorry. Okay, wow. I have a Wednesday morning. Okay, first thing we're going to do is housekeeping. All attendees are in listen only mode. I'm sorry, my computer is delayed. Attendees may select the raise hand icon to alert the trainer that you have a questions. Attendees may type in the question box to ask a question. Okay, if you look over to your right hand side, you do see there is a question box. During this training, in the chat box, when we get to the definitions, I would love for you to answer the questions by putting your answer inside the chat box. See if you have any questions. But if you have specific questions for just your institution, I would recommend that either you email me personally or that you reach out to your technical assistance coordinator or your nutrition TA mailbox. Thank you. During this training, we're going to review program definitions. We're going to review CACFP performance standards, which we will talk more about that. We will discuss the fiscal year 2020 CACFP annual renewal application requirements. We will review annual renewal documentation and or forms. We will also demonstrate how to upload and submit annual requirement documentation and or forms into Georgia Atlas. Today's training objectives are to provide participants with an overview of program definitions, performance standards, and instruction on how to complete the fiscal year 2020 CACFP annual renewal application requirements, as well as provide participants with the knowledge, skills, and resources for completing the fiscal year 20 renewal requirements in Georgia Atlas, locating and or identifying renewal documentation and or program forms. The purpose. The purpose of the Child and Adult Care Food Program is the CACFP is the program under the U.S. Department of Agriculture's Food and Nutrition Services, FNS, whose mission is to alleviate hunger and to safeguard the health and nutritional well-being of the nation through the administration of nutrition, education, and domestic food assistance programs. Our nutrition vision statement is working together with our partners to eradicate hunger and ensure nutritious meals for all Georgians. Thank you for being the partner to fighting this battle. The next thing we will see, this is our current non-discrimination statement as of November 1st, 2000. Please ensure that you've been updated with this new statement. For example, your income eligible forms and document that you disseminate to your participants and or the community reference the Equal Opportunity Public Notification Policy, which was revised November 12, 2015. For further guidance or views on the new non-discrimination statement, okay? Definitions. We will go over some commonly used definitions for CACFP. When you know the answer, could you please click a private nonprofit organization or any for-profit center as defined in this section, which A is a license or approved by federal, state, or local authorities to provide non-residential adult daycare services to functionally impaired adults as defined in this section, or persons 60 years of age or older in a group setting outside their home or a group living arrangement on a less than 24-hour basis, and provides for such care and services directly or under arrangements made by the agency or organization, whereby the agency or organizations maintain professional management responsibility for all such services. Such centers shall provide a structured, comprehensive program that provides a variety of health, social, and related support services to enrolled adult participants through an individual plan of care. Is it A, at risk after school care center, B, adult daycare center, C, child care center, and D, outside school hours care center? Could you put your answers in the chat box? The answer is B, adult daycare center. The next one is a public or private nonprofit organization that is participating or is eligible to participate in the CACFP as an institution or as a sponsored facility and that provides non-residential childcare to children after school through an approved after-school care program located in the eligible area. Is it A, at-risk after-school care center, B, adult daycare center, C, child care center, or D, outside school hours care center? Okay, the answer is at-risk after-school care center. The next one, any public or private nonprofit institution or facility except daycare homes or any for-profit center as defined in this section that is licensed or approved to provide non-residential child care services to enrolled children, primarily of preschool age, including but not limited to daycare centers, settlement houses, neighborhood centers, Head Start centers, and organizations providing daycare services for children with disabilities. Childcare centers may participate in the program as independent centers under the auspices of a sponsoring organization. Is it A, at risk after school care center, B, adult daycare center, C, child care center, or D, outside school hours care center? Okay, it is child care center. Very good. A responsible individual or daycare home that is ineligible for participation. Is it A, seriously deficient? Is it B, pending? Is it C, disqualified? Or is it D, approved? Disqualified is your answer. The next one is a public or private nonprofit emergency shelter which provide residential and food services to homeless children, may serve up to 3 meals a day to homeless children through age 18 who resides at the shelter. Emergency serve residential children. Meals and snacks served to children who are not residents of the shelter may not be claimed for reimbursement unless the shelter is participating in the at-risk after-school component of CACFP. Emergency shelters will have to differentiate between residential children and children who are not served meals as walk-in. Is it A, at-risk after-school care center, B, adult daycare center, C, child care center, or D, emergency shelter? Okay, the answer is emergency shelter. A sponsoring organization, child care center, at-risk after-school care center, outside school hours care center, emergency shelter, or adult daycare center, which enters into an agreement with the state agency to assume final administrative and financial responsibility for program operation. Is it A, partner, B, institution, C, sponsor facility, or D, emergency shelter? It is an institution. In the chat box, I just saw a question, I'm sorry. In the chat box, you can put your answer as A, B, C, or D. As a conversation. The policies, procedures, and organizational structure of an institution designed to assure the program receives and management for laws and guidance, and timely and reliable program information is obtained, maintained, reported, and used for decision making. Is it A, B, C, financial management, or D, internal controls? The correct answer is internal control. A period of 12 calendar months beginning October 1 of any year and ending with September 30th of the following year. Is it A, a fiscal year, B, annually, C, closeout year, or D, year to date? School year. Remember CFP year goes into September 30. An organization other than a public or private nonprofit school with which an institution may contract for preparing and, unless otherwise provided for, delivering meals with or without milk for the use in the program. Is it A, central kitchen, B, food service management company, C, commodities, D, self prep? The correct answer is food service management company. A child care center, outside school hours care center, or adult day care to adults or children that do not qualify for tax exempt status under the Internal Revenue Code of 1986. Is it A, 501c3, C, for profit center, or D, sponsored facility? Okay, the answer is for profit center. In the case of a nonprofit organization, or in the case of a for-profit institution required to have a board of directors, a government meets with the ability to hire institutions executive director. Is A, policy team, B, independent governing board of directors, C, managers, or D, monitoring team? The correct answer is independent governing board of directors. Please give me the adult care food program, as these requirements were recently updated in February of 2018. In the adult care food program and have shared costs among multiple states. Federal regulations require organizations to submit an annual administrative budget indicating all costs and appropriate allocation methodologies. Is it A, multi-state, B, administrative sponsor, C, school food authority, or D, operations? Multi-state. Okay, the last definition is public or private nonprofit centers that are licensed or approved to provide organized non-residential childcare services to children ages 12 and under during hours outside of school may participate in the program as an OSHCC. OSHCCs must be organized for the purpose of providing services to children and must be distinct from extracurricular programs organized primarily for scholastic, cultural, or athletic purposes. School activities organized for purposes other than childcare are not eligible to participate in the CACFP. Weekend only centers operated by schools are not eligible as OSHCCs. Is this A, at risk after school care center, B, adult daycare center, C, child care center, or D, outside school hours care center? Outside school hours care center, correct. Let me take a moment to look at any questions before we move on to our performance standards. Okay. If anybody's having an issue with volume, please make sure that your system is turned all the way up. Okay, I think we're ready to move on to the next section. Performance standards, VCA, which means viability, V, C for capability, A for accountability. With its application, all information required for its approval as set forth in CFR 226.6b and 226.6f. Such information must demonstrate that a new institution has the administrative and financial capability to operate the program in accordance with this part and with the performance standards set forth in CFR 226.6b1, and that a renewal institution has the administrative and financial capability to operate programs in accordance with this part and with the performance standards set forth in 226.6 as well. Therefore, all institutions wanting to continue participation in the CACLP must demonstrate that it can comply with the following performance standards of viability, capability, and accountability. Federal Regulation 7 CFR 226.6b requires new and existing institutions to meet the following performance standards: financial viability, administrative capability, and program accountability. We will talk about this going forth, okay? Let's get into financial viability. These are some questions that you should ask yourself. Does my institution have adequate resources to support both its CACFP and non-CACFP costs? Organization must be financially viable. Program funds must be expended and accounted for in accordance with the requirements in the FNS Instruction 796-2 Revision 4. And Part 200, the Uniform Administrative Requirements, Cost Principles, and Audit Requirements for Federal. To demonstrate financial viability, an organization must document that it meets the following criteria. Okay? Have we assessed the reliability of all our funding sources? Okay, do you have enough money, revenues for income to come in to support your institution? Can we cover all of our projected food and service expenses, or do we need to secure additional resources? Do we need to reallocate resources within our existing budget? Are all of our costs for the budget necessary, reasonable, allowable, and appropriate? Do we have adequate sources of funds to continue to pay employees and suppliers during the periods of temporary interruptions in the program payments? For example, is when the government had a shutdown. We have to make sure that it did not affect us, but what if it did affect us? Will you have enough money to make your program continue going? Another example is when we was waiting on the reimbursements rates to come from USDA and people could not submit their claim. You got to make sure that you have enough funding that you can continue to proceed on in the event that you cannot get your claim money from right from the start. Okay. Administrative capability. Can we complete timely, accurate, and valid application materials? Can we complete our reports in a timely manner? Do we have enough staff with the necessary skills to operate the program correctly? Do we have appropriate and effective policies and procedures in place to ensure program operation meets the code and federal regulation? Appropriate and effective management practices must be in effect to ensure that the program operates in accordance with the Code of Federal Regulation. To demonstrate administrative capability, the new institution must document that it meets the following criteria: adequate number and types of qualified staff to ensure the operation of the program. For sponsor organizations, documents in its management plan that employs staff sufficient to meet the ratio of monitors per facilities, taking into account the factors that the state agency will consider in determining a sponsored organization's staffing needs, as set forth in federal regulations. Okay. Program accountability. Can, I think we have everybody on mute. Can everybody make sure that they mute their line as well? Just so now we have additional questions before we move on to accountability. Okay. I have a few people say they cannot hear me. I want to make sure everybody can hear me. Okay. Okay. Let's keep moving on. The interference just went away. Program accountability, policies and procedures that are compliant with regulatory requirements. Have our staff been trained and do they understand these policies and procedures? Do we have an oversight of our organization? Accountabilities. Organizations must have internal controls and other management systems in effect to ensure financial accountability and to ensure that program will operate in accordance with federal regulation. To demonstrate program accountability, the new institutions must document that it meets the following criteria: adequate oversight from an independent government board of directors. Okay, still awake. Post check right quick. Let's look into any additional questions that I see come up. Okay. All right, let's move on. Here's time for a question. Answer the question. Here we go. Which term is not a performance standard? Is it A, capability, B, ability, C, viability, or D, accountability? Okay, the answer is dependability. Also, just to let you know, a copy of this webinar is located in your handout section. So please make sure if you need to download this webinar, it is in your handout section as well, okay? The volume is all the way up 100% just for the question that was asked, okay? I want to make sure everybody get everything they need. Okay, fiscal year 2020 annual renewal requirements. All participating institutions are required to complete annual renewal requirements in order to continue participation in the CACFP. Each annual renewal requirement is outlined later in this presentation. Failure to complete the annual requirements by the specific deadline date will impact continued participation in the CACFP, which includes submission of monthly claims for reimbursement. The fiscal year 2020 CACFP annual renewal requirements consist of the following: successful complete training by October 2019, self-directed, online in Georgia Atlas. Next, enrolling in the fiscal year 1920 CACFP program year application in Georgia Atlas by October 31st, 2019. Then, completing the annual certification statements by October 31st, 2019, reviewing, completing all fiscal year 20 applications, update in Georgia Atlas, and lastly, submitting all annual renewal documentation. We will discuss each of these areas in more details. Okay, so please look at the chart above, right here on your screen, and it says it's going to be available on September 5th. Okay, and then you see the next ones are not available until October 1. Okay. The first step in the annual renewal process is completing the annual training. The fiscal year 2020 CACP annual training requirements include attending and reviewing the CACP 2020 annual training presentation in Georgia Atlas and successfully completing the assessments question with a score of 80% or higher. Scoring lower than 80% will not prevent the program contact from moving forward in the annual renewal process. However, technical assistance will be given to organizations that do not score 80% or higher. Okay, so next we will briefly walk through how to register and complete the fiscal year 2020 annual training requirements in Georgia Atlas. Important announcement. Registration for the required web-based fiscal year 2020 annual training will be available on September the 5th. Okay. First, the program contact, the PC will log into Georgia Atlas using their login credentials. You're going to select My Account from the blue menu bar, okay, on the dashboard screen. This is only if you need to, okay, if you're not already set up, okay. Select account for the highlighted from the blue highlighted link. Like they have been previously created. So this is for people that have to create a profile for themselves. Okay. So if you do not have this, don't worry about it. You already set up. Okay. If you have to go into the account profile, okay, the program contact user information will be put here. First and last name, email address, as well as the phone number. If an account profile has already been completed, you may skip this step, okay? Click on change character, a numerical and a symbol character. Then always select save and finish. After complete information, select my training, the blue highlighted link screen. After you hit my training, you're going to go click on register for training. Okay. From the course list screen, use the drop down menu next to programs, select or find the term CACFP, and select the search radio button. Okay. Find fiscal year 2020 annual training required and select the blue link. Okay, next we're going to select the fiscal year 2020 annual training blue link that applies to your organization. There will be two different types of annual training sessions offered for fiscal year 2020. One for and for independent. Okay? Sponsors of affiliated or unaffiliated centers and sponsors of daycare homes will complete the annual training for sponsors. All independent centers, regardless of the type of center, will complete the annual training for institutions, principal, and program contacts that are responsible for the administration and operation of more than one organization sponsorship for each institution sponsorship agreement number in order to continue participation in fiscal year 2020. Okay, so now you have done that part. You will see on here where it says the enroll button. Okay, you click enroll. That will come up. You have to hit the back button. Okay, after receiving your immediate confirmation of the enrollment in the fiscal year 2020 annual renewal training, you may select the back video button to okay, important announcement again. Fiscal year 2020 CACFP annual renewal requirements must be completed by October 31st, 2019. Okay, after receiving your email confirmation of enrollment, you may enter back into my training and a list of the registered or enrolled fiscal year 2020 annual training and begin the session. Select the paper pencil test icon located to the far right. Okay, please make sure you do not click the little X, the red with the X with the red around it, because this will delete you from that training. You will have to re-register again if you complete the X. Please only click on the pencil and the paper after the testing. Once you get to the test, okay, if you look at the top, the blue highlight link, that is where you will get information to you take your test, okay? All right. Lastly, the assessment question. Be sure to end the practice, also print a copy of your score with your selected answers. Okay. For example, if you go into it and you can go into if it's not there, you can go in and select add other training, and you write in the course name fiscal year 2020 annual training for sponsors, or fiscal year 2019 annual training for independent centers. That should say 2020 for independent centers, okay? Then select save and register for training. Okay, we're going to do a true and false. Okay, let's do true and false. There are types 2020 annual training sessions located in Georgia Atlas, one for sponsors and one for independent centers. Is this true or false? The correct answer is true. Remember to make sure that you go into the one that is correct for your institution, okay? So if you're an independent center, please do not take the sponsor training and vice versa, okay? The next step in the annual renewal process is enrolling in the fiscal year 20 program application, okay? Institutions and sponsors can enroll in fiscal year 2020 on or after October 1st, 2019, but not before completing the annual renewal training. Institutions that have completed the fiscal year 2020 CACFP annual renewal training and assessment and have enrolled in the CACFP for fiscal year 2020 will have access to the fiscal year 2020 application on or after October 1st. After enrollment into the fiscal year 20 program applications, organizations may proceed to the next step in the annual renewal process. So please keep in mind October 1st, okay, for the next part. Instructions on completing the fiscal year 2020 CACFP annual renewal requirements will be provided in the email announcement and or the nutrition newsletter. Please reference the message section in Georgia Atlas for all previous and new announcements. Now we will walk through how to enroll in the fiscal 20 program year application. First, the program contact PC will log into Georgia Atlas using their login credentials, user ID, and password. And please remember that these are case sensitive. Second, under the application section on the dashboard screen, select the 1920 blue link under program year to enroll in CACFE for fiscal year 2020. We're going to select the red Enroll Radio button, then select OK at the top of the screen. Okay. After you select OK, the organization is now enrolled in the fiscal year 20 application and may continue with the renewal process and should be directed to the next step, which is completing the annual certification statement. The annual certification statement, there is a new question that is listed on it, number 15. Okay, so please make sure that you're looking at a new question. This new question has been added. Please keep in mind the annual certification statements must be completed before entering any other portion of your application. All right, true or false? The annual certification statements must be completed before an institution will have access to any other section in Georgia Atlas. Is this true or false? The correct answer is true. You must complete your annual certification statements. And just a FYI, please make sure you're reading your annual certification statements and making sure that you are following them. Okay? Let's move on now into the annual renewal requirements, okay, about your application updates. After completing the annual certification statements, organization will have access to other sections in the fiscal year 2020 application. This is the time to review and update your entire application, as well as make any necessary revisions, such as revising the annual budget, revising the management plan according to include new policy and procedures at your organization. For example, a new program contact. In addition, sponsoring organizations should review all and revise any center home site application. Perhaps the site is no longer participating under your sponsorship. Therefore, the application will need to be updated. All sponsoring organizations and independent centers charging administrative costs are required to submit an annual budget, and institutions with the new cost that requires prior or specific prior written approval must revise the budget details. Please ensure you make all necessary updates to your application during this annual renewal period prior to October 31st, 2019. The final step in completing the fiscal year 20 CACFP annual renewal process is submitting and uploading all required annual renewal documentation. These documents include the following: criminal records checks, which are CRC, clearance letters only for sponsoring organizations, the annual SAVE affirmation form, a valid health and kitchen and fire inspections, which are only for unlicensed center and facilities. The management plan is only required when revisions are needed. The budget packet is required annually for sponsored organizations and only for independent centers with the new cost, which requires specific prior written approval. And if the budget packet is not detailed on an annual or yearly basis. Some additional documents are the multi-state requirement shared cost letters. The is only for organizations that operate in more than one state. The IRS W-9 form, the waiver for management and budget form, which are only for school food authorities and Board of Educations. Okay, this is a note for you all. SFSP sponsors that operate at risk after school meal sites can no longer waiver submit a waiver for monitoring requirements. The previous waiver has been rescinded. Okay. Please ensure you visit the fiscal year 2020 CACFP annual renewal documentation requirements PDF that will be on DCAL's website for more information regarding annual renewal documents. The PDF document is also located in the handout section of your toolbar and is available for your download. The annual renewal document should be uploaded in the attachment list section of Georgia Atlas. We will look at each required documents on the next few slides. Okay, true or false? Independent institutions are required to annually submit a budget packet with the new costs require specific prior approval. Is this true or false? The correct answer is true. Please keep in mind, independent institutions are only required to submit an annual budget packet if a new cost is being allocated to CACFP that requires specific prior written approval, or if the budget changes or the budget is not detailed determined on an annual or yearly basis. Example, if at any point an organization applied for the CACFP program in the middle of the fiscal year, or if an organization revised their budget in the middle of the fiscal year, then the budget would need to be updated to detail revenue and expenses on an annual or yearly basis. So just make sure it's done on a 12-month basis, okay? On your whatever your annual or your yearly basis is, okay? However, all sponsoring organizations must submit a budget packet every year. All right. Fiscal year 2020 CACP annual renewal documentation requirements. We will present required annual renewal documents forms that are located on the fiscal year 20 CACFP annual renewal documentation requirements PDF. Institutions have the ability to upload required documents into the application within the checklist summary section or the attachment list section in Georgia Atlas, or you may fax them to 770-359-3298. Again, you can upload them into your checklist summary section or attachment list section in Georgia Atlas, or you can fax to 770-359-3298. Okay, the fiscal year 2020 CACFP annual renewal documentation requirements PDF form will list all the required forms and document per program type that must be submitted uploaded in Georgia Atlas. Again, the PDF. The next few slides will outline in detail the required annual renewal forms in this PDF document. Okay, so this document right here is a great resource for you that you can click on the blue link and it can take you straight to the form. This is a great guide for you. All right, sponsoring organization must complete a records check application for all employees that may enter into a licensed child care center, after school program, outside school hours program, a family or group daycare home when children are present. Please contact legal services to submit records check application. However, upload the clearance letter in Georgia Atlas application under the attachment list section. Record check is required upon new hire of staff or every 5 years. Employees that only perform services for non-licensed childcare centers are exempt from this requirement. School food authorities and any other institution that do not provide CACFP services in a licensed facility are also excluded from this requirement. There are additional memos that's available to answer most of these questions. If you look in the bottom right hand section, you do see the actual memos that will give you more clarity on this. Okay. Let's discuss the annual SAVE affirmation form. Okay. This form verifies that the principal program contact is eligible to work in the U.S. Institutions and sponsoring organizations are required to annually acknowledge participation in a public benefit CACFP and attest to previously submitting verification of U.S. citizenship. When completing this form, please ensure the legal name of the institution is listed. This form is located on DCAL's website. Okay, unlicensed or unaffiliated centers, including at-risk, copy of the current food service permit and fire inspection to the central kitchen for the central kitchen location and for the food service management company that provides vended meal service. Valid inspections must be current and have been completed within the last 12 months. Please reference the following memo for more information. Requirements for obtaining a food service permit, which was dated 4/17/19. If you need additional information, okay? In cases where the local state agency exempts an institution or sponsoring organization from adherence to the full health and safety requirements, the exemption should be documented in writing by the relevant state agency and submitted to DECAL for review. The management plan is an application requirement that describes the institution and sponsoring CACFP operations for staffing, meal service, training, monitoring, recruitment, and eligibility. In addition, the management plan is where an organization will describe in detail how their processes and procedures are incorporating the performance standards such as financial viability, administrative capability, and program accountability. Okay. All institutions and sponsor organizations are writing that documents effective, efficient processes and procedures that are compliant with federal regulation and state policies. I'll tell people often, make sure that your current practices that you are actually physically doing matches what you are doing in the management plan. Oftentimes we change our practices in person, but we do not change what we're doing in the management plan. Make sure it is current. Okay, let's take a brief look at one section of the management plan, the personnel and staffing section, which should be consistent with the budget detail sections of Georgia Atlas, which we will discuss next, okay? There are 3 staff employees. So please ensure that the number is consistent with the number of staff indicated in question 10 of the budget questions and assertions. The first employee name is Star Price, who works both administrative and operating duties. 18% of her time is spent on administrative duties, and 56% of her time is operating duty. That is a total of 74% is spent on CACFP duties. Therefore, the remaining 26% of her time is spent on non-CACFP duties. So, the sources section must indicate general or other funding sources that will be used to allocate the remaining 26% of her non-CACFP labor costs. Okay. The second staff member is April Foods. Okay. And she is the cook at the organization, and 100% of her time is spent on CACFP operating duties. Therefore, if you see over to the right, the sources section, CACFP is listed to indicate that all of her labor costs will be allocated to CACFP. Although when cost is allocated at 100% to CACFP, the sources section does not need to be complete. However, this practice is to list all applicable funding sources. My recommendation is to list all funding sources. Please put something in the sources column, okay? The last staff member is May Flowers, and she only spends 10% of her time on CACFP administrative duties, and therefore the remaining 90% of her time is spent on non-CACFP duties. So in the sources section, the underfunding sources must indicate the detail how the other 90% will be paid. So if 10% is CACFP, then the 90 other percent is located here. It says private tuition. Okay, before we get to the budget packet, let me see if there's any additional questions. Okay, the budget packet. All sponsoring organizations and independent centers charging administrative costs are required to annually submit a budget package, and institutions are required to submit an annual budget when any portion of the meal reimbursement is used for operating costs that require prior or specific prior written approval, and or when any portion of the meal reimbursement is used for administrative costs. Please refer to the prior approval item CACFP budget documents more details on costs requiring prior and specific prior approval. Again, the budget details section should be consistent with the management plan. School food authorities are exempt from submitting a budget package and management plan. Please keep in mind if an independent institution budget package is not determined on an annual or year basis, then the institution must update the budget packet. For example, if at any point an organization applied for the CACFP in the middle of the fiscal year, or if an organization revised the budget in the middle of the fiscal year, the budget must be updated to determine revenue and expenses on an annual yearly basis. All organizations must document allowable costs that are incurred in the operation and or administration of the CACFP. All costs must be authorized and approved via the CACFP budget prior to using CACFP funds to pay for costs. If a new cost requires specific prior written approval, the form must be completed and submitted and uploaded to the attachment list of Georgia Atlas. Okay, now let's quickly review the budget details section again. Please ensure the budget package is determined on an annual basis, okay? The first subsection in the detail is the projected annual revenue worksheet. So we will need to select the blue highlighted link to continue to complete this section. Please keep in mind the budget revenue and expenses is based on a yearly or annual basis. Okay? The organization will complete the worksheet as it applies to their site. The ADP, which is the average daily participation, the days column section is the number of days of the year that the site is operating. The meal column section is automatically calculated for the data entered from the ADP and days of operation. The rate is automatically populated based on the USDA meal reimbursement. And lastly, the reimbursement is automatically calculated from the meals time rates column section. The data will need to be entered in for each meal type that is offered at this center. Please keep in mind the days column section should be the same for all meals. If you look in your handout section that is on this actual the panel, okay, the copy of the average daily participation, it is a sample there. How do you get average daily participation? So please feel free to look at that handout on how to calculate average daily participation. Okay, we see the AM and PM snack and supper data represented here on on the slide, okay? Just so you know, when you see a term CIL, that means cash in lieu of commodities food. Organizations may receive cash in lieu for lunch and supper. Please also notice that the projected annual revenue worksheet provides a worksheet total or grand total for the ADP. Okay? Meals and reimbursement section. It is outlined in red here on the slides. Also, please ensure you select close link that is located at the bottom right corner of the budget after the line items. If this close link is not selected, it will not save your data number. Okay? So make sure you always hit close, especially when you hit this budget. Okay? You do not hit close, it it was gone. All your details and work is gone. Okay? The next part is subsection of the budget details is other program revenue. Okay, so we would need to select the blue highlighted link to continue to complete this section. You're going to list all funding sources that is applicable to your organization. Again, remember to select the close link in each subsection of the budget details. The total administrative expenses subsection follows other program revenue, and the administrative costs are limited to 15% of the meal reimbursement. Therefore, organizations may only allocate a maximum of 15% of administrative labor costs to CACFP. The total administrative expenses are automatically calculated from the data entered on the projected annual revenue worksheet. Make sure you hit that close button, okay? All right, the next subsection is the projected annual expenses. The cost categories are separated by line item and detailed under each administrative cost or operating cost. There are 21 cost categories and or line items. The first category is food costs. This is the only this is the operating cost, okay? Therefore, you do not see the option to separate the cost amounts between administrative costs, okay? Organization first need to enter in the food cost amount under the amounts column next to the food cost, which is $44,374.59. Remember, this is an annual cost. Okay. Then allocate the food cost amount between either CACFP, SFSP, or other funds column. Food cost is usually allocated at 100% to CACFP. Therefore, 100 should be entered under the CACFP column of 100%. You see here on the screen. Again, when working in the budget details section, you will want to select close after each line is saved to the data enter. Now let's look at labor and benefit costs. This cost category may be separated between operating and administrative costs. After looking at the slides related to management plan, personnel, and staffing section from early in this presentation, there are 3 staff members in which labor costs will be allocated to CACFP. We know that 1 staff member only performs operating duties and 1 staff member only performs administrative duties. Okay? And the 3rd staff member performs both operating and administrative duties. And you're looking down in the yellow box, okay? Therefore, when determining the allocation for CACFP for both operating and administrative costs, an average must be calculated by using the staff member's percentage of time spent on operating and administrative duties. The total labor cost amount should be the annual salaries combined of the staff members. For example, the 2 staff members that perform operating duties should include the annual salary for both employees. Okay? Now let's determine the operating labor and benefit cost. We see that Star Price and April Foods both perform operating duty. Okay, we're looking in the yellow box on the screen. What would be the total salary for these two staff members? So we're going to add their two salaries together, which is 29,000 and it's 26,250, which equals $55,250 for those two employees. Okay. So under the amounts column next to operating costs, you see it says 55,250 should be entered. Now let's calculate the allocation percentage for CACFP. You will add both Star Price and April Food's time that was spent on CACFP operation duties, then divide by 2 to get an average. And this will be the cost allocation for the percent CACFP column. For example, you see Star Price is 56%, and then April Foods is 100. Okay, you divide that by 2, which give you 78%. Now 78% of 100%. Therefore, the remaining 22 will be entered under other funds column. Now we will see the approved amount column next to the operating cost is a total of 43,095 because that is the 78% of the 55,250. Okay. Now we perform the same calculations to determine the administrative cost. What would be the total annual salary for the administrative cost? All right. The total administrative cost will be 44,300. And figures should be entered in the amount column next to the administrative cost. Again, we need to calculate an average percent of time on administrative duties for Star Price and Mayflowers. What is the cost allocation for CACP administrative duties? The total percent CACP column should be 14%, and the remaining 86% should be entered under other funds next to the administrative costs. Now we see in the approved amount column for administrative costs is a total of 6,202. Okay, I know that was a handful. Let's see if we got any additional questions coming up. Okay, one of the questions asked about the staff distribution sheet. Remember that you're using the staff distribution sheet if you are distributing your time within two programs. If you're 100%, you do not have to use the staff distribution sheet, but I do recommend that sometimes people do use it so you can be accountable for it, just to have the sheet that's available. But if you are doing, let's say, 50% CACFP and 50% non-CACFP, you need to show how you're distributing your time throughout the day. How much time is operating, administrative, and how much is non-CACFP. So you must utilize your staff distribution form because anytime even if you have a cook that cooks in the kitchen, but then she answered phone for 1 hour a day for you, then that staff is no longer all 100% because she is distributing her time within two programs. Okay. Okay, let's move on to the multi-state requirements, which we talked about this earlier. This is required annually. Okay. This documents whether there are shared costs among the multi-states in which sponsors operate the CACFP. Federal Regulations 7 CFR 226.7 requires sponsor organizations to submit an annual administrative budget indicating all costs and appropriate allocation methodologies. State agencies are required to identify sponsors that participate in multi-state and determine if CACFP administrative costs are shared among sponsor facilities in each state. Sponsor organizations participate in CACFP in multiple states are required to inform detail on cost principles for shared costs among the multiple states in which sponsors operate the CACFP. DCAL will identify and issue requests for certification to sponsoring organization with instructions for completion and the submission of the multi-state form letter certification responses. The IRS W-9 tax form, okay, it is required annually. Okay, this is a form that is issued by the IRS, Internal Revenue Service, and is used to identify the legal entity to which funds are being paid for the purposes of federal tax reporting. All institutions and sponsored organizations are required to submit this form. All legal entity information provided on the RES Form W-9 must be consistent with all legal entity information provided to Bright from the start. If, for example, you have the legal entity name as shown on income tax return, federal employees, identification number, FEIN, etc. This form must be submitted and uploaded to the attachment list section of Georgia Atlas. All right, federal policy allows school food authorities and boards that participate in the program when either transition or applying to the CACFP program. This form is a formal request to waive the submission of the annual budget and the management plan for school food authorities or Board of Education. This form must be completed and uploaded in the attachment list section of Georgia Atlas. The form is located on DCAL's website. Okay, checking again. Are you still with me? Okay. Somebody else asked for that fax number again, which we would answer that at the end. We would do the fax number again. I will publish that at the end of the training, okay? And if anybody needs any individual time, please we will get at the end of the training for any specific question that you have for your organization. Okay? Question. What organization type may submit a waiver request for the budget and management plan? Is it A, independent child care centers, B, daycare home sponsors, C, sponsoring organizations of child care centers, and D, school food authorities, SFA, and or Board of Education's BOEs? What's the correct answer? If you put school food authorities and Board of Education, you are correct. Kudos to you. Now let's move forward into the Georgia Atlas submission attachment list. In this last section, we will discuss where and how to submit, upload all the required annual renewal documents and or forms. Okay, the attachment list captured all other documentation supported by the organization that was not uploaded in the checklist summary. The attachment list can be used to upload supporting documentation that are requested by the decal. First, click on the detail link to access the attachment list. Okay. Click the red radio button, add attachment to attach forms and or documents. Okay. As documents are uploaded into the attachment list, they can be viewed from this screen. All right. After you hit the attachment list, you will see this page that comes up. You will choose File. Okay. When you choose the file, after you see the form, attach it, and then you will make sure you hit Save. Also, make sure you hit Finish when you are done. Okay. On this section right here, so after everything has been attached, hit Finish, you will see this page that comes up here. Please make sure that you name files that can be identified not only by you, but by anybody else that is searching for your document. For example, please make names like fiscal year 2020 CACFP annual state affirmation form or CACFP W-9 form with the fiscal year in front of it. Okay, please don't just put form 1, form 2. Please make sure it's available that application specialists or whoever's need to identify, and even yourself, can go in and identify the form. Okay. Another question time. Where should the fiscal year 2020 annual renewal documents be uploaded in Georgia Atlas? Should it be in the attachment list, the management plan, the budget details, or the institution application? All right, there you go. Attachment list. Thank you for your participation. Okay, we come to the resources section. Okay. The following slides will provide resources that are available to assist you when completing the fiscal year 2020 CACFP annual renewal requirements. Okay, DECAL's website is a great resource to find program forms, policies, memos, handbooks, and instruction. There are also how-to videos to help navigate Georgia Atlas. Institutions must be knowledgeable of all policies and memos to ensure compliance with performance standards. CACFP memos and policies are located on DCAL's website under, you go to program, you go down to nutrition, you hit CACFP participant information. I want to remind you on the participant information, that plus sign, you should make it a minus, and then you'll get a drop down box there for you. Okay. The handbooks and the instruction is also up under CACP participation, and that is a great wealth of information for you as well. Now let's look at the fiscal year 2020 CAC annual renewal documentation requirements. It's also located on DCAL's website under CACLP form. So here's 2018. When you see it, it'll say 29th fiscal year 2020. Okay. And you will see your information that's located right here for you. This document is a great resource to provide guidance on required annual renewal documentation. Here will you also find the annual renewal application instructions as well. Okay. To locate CACLP forms, institution may select providers from the yellow menu bar, then select CACFP form. Okay. So you have the information. It will say fiscal year 20. The CACFP annual renewal documentation requirements PDF form will list all the required forms and documents per program type to be submitted and uploaded to Atlas. Again, this will show all the forms that's needed. Please be careful with PDF document. Again, it's saved in the handout section on the toolbar. Okay, of course, if you want to access to Georgia Atlas, is available on the Nutrition Services website. Okay, but most people submit the claims, probably already know, but you go to Georgia Atlas and you click here to navigate to Georgia Atlas. Okay, and this give you, and while you're here, if you see where it says videos, that's next to documents, this is where you can access some of the how-to videos, how to the management plan, the budget, etc. Okay. All right. The message section. Under the message section of Georgia Atlas, program contents can see recent announcements from decals. Always refer to this section to review the latest updates and or for new information. Select the blue double arrows on the right-hand side to expand the message section and view all the announcements. Okay, this is your application team. Okay, the application team is here to assist you. If you call and you cannot get them, my recommendation is to email. Okay, if you make updates and changes to your application, please fill out the correct update forms and the right forms with them and let them know via email that you updated your application and things of the nature. Okay. They are here to help you. This is the application team. If you see Demetria Thorne, for those who had Demetria Thorne, she is still working on. If you had zero to the letter G, she has moved up to the supervisor position, but she still will be handling your case, the caseload for all the institutions until they replace with somebody else. So feel free to still email Miss Demetria Thornton if you were from number 0 to letter G. Okay. All right, here you have your training and technical assistance team, and you have them by region. Lakeisha Robinson, Southeast. Deidre Thompson is East now. She was in Atlanta. She is now East. Myself, Victoria Thomas, which I am Southwest. And Kim EJ, who is North Northwest, Miss Tanya Coleman, who is the newest one on the team, who is Metro West. Everybody met Miss Sylvia Boykins as a trainer, and Miss Grushan Robinson, who used to be Northwest, North is now our supervisor, and she's a training manager. If you cannot get your technical assistance coordinator, feel free to please email Nutrition TA mailbox at nutritionta@dcal.ga.gov. All right. For your additional support, okay, you do have Miss Shonda Franklin, and she does now have an assistant with her. She is the budget compliance supervisor. This is her information because I know many people do have questions about budget. Jones. She is the procurement and purchasing compliance specialist. Okay. You have Anisha Harris. She's the federal grants and receivable accountant. She is over the claims. Okay. She's the money lady. Then you have Miss Leslie Truman. She is the administrative assistant who is feel free to help you as much as she can. If you have any general questions, please feel free to ask, call, contact Miss Leslie Truman. If you need to sign up for a training or anything of that nature, please contact Miss Leslie Truman. Okay, you see these regions. This is how they're separated by regions, okay? All right. So you see, I'm in the yellow, Tanya Coleman and Kim. So if you have a question about who is in what region, this is a little chart that'll help to tell you which TA coordinator, training TA coordinator is for your area. Okay. Just a friendly reminder, ensure that the following items are updated annually, the CCR date. The CCR date is in the institution section of the application. The date should not exceed 365 days. You should go online to sam.gov to renew the information and put the date of the renewal in the application. There is no fee for this service. Failure to update this information may adversely affect claim submission. So please go in and look in your institution application because I see some that are like very outdated to make sure that it is actually up to date. Okay. Federal regulations require that racial ethnic data to be collected annually. Please ensure that this is an annual requirement is being met. And this is in the site application. Also, friendly reminder, these are not items are required for the annual renewal. This is just a friendly reminder. Please reference the CACFP form section of the Nutrition Services website for all required forms. The fiscal year 2020 annual training presentation will discuss the new and revised use the most current form will result in a record keeping finding and may also result in an adverse action. The at-risk weekly menu and food service record form has been revised to include the ages 3 to 5, and institution may follow the serving sizes listed on the new CACFP meal pattern document for ages 3 to 5. Okay, so make sure it says here always check DCAL's website for new and updated forms. Okay, so if you have that file cabinet and then you just keep pulling forms from the file cabinet, you need to make sure you're looking at the site for October 1, okay? Because the forms are revised at that time, that's when they will be revised, okay? So please do not get a record keeping finding by using old forms. These are just a heads up. The roster is being updated, which we will go over a little bit. That's the child and adult roster. The income eligibility statement is being revised, which you will not have to redo the income eligibility statements that are done now. But when they become expired, you must use the new form. And when new enrollees enter, you must use the new form at that time. The at-risk weekly menu and food service record form we just talked about. They add the ages of 3 to 5 on that form. This CACFP mileage forms is a new because now it's separated by operating and administrative. And then you have the monthly attendance record form, which is optional, and that's new. Okay, you see this child care center roster of food program participants. Again, this is due every year, October 1, a brand new roster. You look at this form, and the instructions will be there on telling you how to fill this out. You see some things have changed. The pre-K category is no longer there. Now you have the IES information onto this form as well. Okay, so there'll be information there, and there'll be all the instructions to tell you about this. This roster will be in effect October 1st. There is a separate adult roster. All right, income eligibility form. The thing that's mostly changed about this form is where it says paid. The previous form had paid, said that's denied. Now it just says paid, okay? This is the at-risk weekly and food service record form that I just talked about. You see in the red where it says 3 to 5 year olds because we do have a lot of children that are of young age that are in at-risk after-school programs. We want to make sure that it was incorporated within the form for you all institutions. Okay. The CACLP mileage record form. So now you have an operating and you have an administrative. So you do have both forms. Okay. We have the attendance record form. This right here is optional, but this is a great form for you to have. And this is it's a ongoing form, and if you put it there and you can do this, it adds up for you. Um, so this is a great form you have, and it's optional though, but this is a form that was created so that you may have at the institution for the attendance record. Okay, before we go to the next one, I'm going to see I have a question down here. Okay, the question was about alternate approval. If you want to request an alternate approval, please get with your technical assistance coordinator, but you have to make sure that anytime you ask for alternate approval, it must incorporate, you must show how you're going to incorporate all the information that's on the new form for the requirement to meet the requirement. So, for example, this roster is having all this information. When you request to your technical assistance coordinator, you're going to have to show that all the information that's being incorporated, you have some other kind of system that will make you be in compliance. Okay, if not, you will be denied for your alternate approval. But please contact your technical assistance coordinator for this alternate approval and be able to show the documentation to support where you will be able to show them that you can be able to meet this compliance before alternate approval. If you do not receive alternate approval, you are required to use the correct form. Okay? Just a reminder, the application will be closed so enhancements can be made. With the enhancement, there will be new questions and requirements. It is important that the application is reviewed to ensure the application is complete and accurate. With that, institutions will not be able to enroll into fiscal year 2019-20 application until October 1st. Okay, if you see here is the application section of Georgia Atlas will not be available from 9:15 to 9:30. Changes made and approved prior to 9:15 will roll over to fiscal year 2020 application. Now, so you'll see the claim section and the training modules in Georgia Atlas will still be available, but your actual application will not be available during this time. So you can still submit your claim for your funding as well as doing the training. Those are still be available, but nothing going into the management plan, the budget, all of that will not be available at that time. Okay, we had the question. Okay, we had the question section. We are technically at the end. This concludes the fiscal year 2020 annual training. I wish you good luck on the training. And for those that want to stay on, you can stay on. I will answer some of the questions in the answer box. And from there, if not, you are feel free to exit this webinar and good luck on everything. And exactly if you have any questions, you can reach out to me. I am Victoria Thomas. I'm located on the resources section, or you can contact the nutrition TA mailbox at nutritionta@dcal.ga.gov. And I just want to wish you good luck and you have a wonderful day. So those that have questions. One of the questions is, are Head Start programs required to have families to complete income eligibility form? No, Head Start forms do not have to have income eligibility form, but you must have enrollment information that's on file. Okay, but you are exempt from income eligibility according to the Reauthorization Act, okay? You do not have to have income eligibility forms, Head Start. Is the new roster for at-risk, after-school programs, or just licensed child? The roster is for everybody. Everybody has to have a roster, okay? Um, just as though you had before, you had to have a center roster. It's the same thing. Only thing, whatever your requirements were before, they just updated this roster, okay? I'm not sure about the question of can you use both. I don't know exactly what was the question on that one. If you had alternate approval for a roster already, do you have to renew this year? Yes, you will have to renew because the roster has changed. So if you had alternate approval prior, you must have approval again because when the roster changes, you are responsible as an institution that ensure that your approval, your information still meets the requirements. And since the requirements on the roster is changing, you have to submit alternate approval again. Okay. Someone said they signed into the webinar late due to connection issues. There is another one on September the 25th. The webinar again is on September the 25th if you missed this one, okay? Also, I told you in the handout section, there is the copy of the PowerPoint that is available that we went over today. The attendance form, somebody said the attendance form that is new is optional, so do we need to get alternate approval even though it's optional? No, if it's optional, you are not required to get alternate approval because it's just an optional form. But like the roster is required, so you will have to get alternate approval for that. But any optional form, you do not have to get alternate approval. Okay, if I did not get to your question, could you please email me if you have specific questions? Okay, so like the new roster or anything else, it's going to be instructions on the roster and it will be new newsletter and correspondence that's coming out for you all about the new form. Okay, again, I would like to answer all of your questions. So if you can, please contact me, victoria.thomas@dcal.ga.gov, if you have any other additional questions, okay? I have one more question. Most of my students' income eligibility statement expires in September. Do I use the old roster and then complete a new roster on October 1st? That is correct. The roster is supposed to start as of October 1. Remember, the fiscal years go October 1 to September the 30th. Okay, so technically the rule is October 1, you should be doing a new roster for your children. Rita Williams, I'm trying to find your previous question. All right, thank you so much. Have a great day. No, I said September 25th. So if anybody else with any additional question, if you're still online, you can let me know because I'm not sure who all's still here, so I can answer your question. Miss, is the information on the website on the racial and free and reduced current information to be used in the application? Um, let's see. I'm trying to understand exactly what you're asking me. If you're asking for the free and reduced rates for the income eligibility statement, they are updated online. The new income eligibility guidelines, it goes into 2020. That's already there. And the racial, yes, if you go in, when you get ready to go into your application, all of that information should be available under the dates that we were required to do. So September the 5th for the training, October 1st for the other parts of your application. Just make sure you do it there. Okay, remember that somebody just asked, where's the attendance form you showed? Remember, all of these are available October 1, October 1st. Okay, so they may not be available yet because they're not required to be in place. If you're going to do it, remember I told you it's optional until October the 1st. Okay?